have another Zoom at 2 o'clock with the dean, so I don't want to be late for that, but I don't think it's going to take
a whole lot. We won't take much. This is starting in another 1 minute. 1 or 3 will start. I can go ahead with announcements. So hello everybody. Welcome you all for this monthly seminar by the TAMHSC PDA. So before we start our today's presentation, I have a couple of announcements to make. So from this month onwards, we have our 2 new co-presidents who have joined the TAMHSC PDA. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our first co-president, Dr. Gagandeep Kaur, who has earned her PhD degree in bioorganic chemistry from Indian Institute of Technology in 2017. She has joined Texas A&M University as a postdoc in 2017. She is currently working on mesenchymal stem cell-derived extracellular vesicles to cure treat autoimmune diseases. Congratulations, Gagan.
Thank you, Gagan.
Hi, and then we have our next co-president, Ahmed, who is a postdoctoral research associate at Dr. Fatima Ashbul's lab at the School of Pharmacy, Department of Pharmacy Practices. As a researcher, Ahmed's interest is to understand the negative effect of tobacco and tobacco-related products on health of cardiovascular system. I welcome both of you to the PDA committee. And with this, I would also like to make an announcement for anyone who wants to be a volunteer. We still have some officers' position in the postdoc association committee, so please join us. So with that, I would like Emma to take over and introduce our today's speaker.
All right, thank you so much, Gaurav, and really thank you for introducing us, and we hope that we're going to be adding value to the postdoctoral association. And of course, I would like to ask all the Zoom attendees to go ahead and use the attendance link that Stacy added to the chat, so you can record your attendance to the seminar. And of course, I have the delightful job to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Fadi. So it is, of course, a great pleasure for me to introduce him. And he's going to talk today about the leadership and emotional intelligence. This is, of course, a subject that in which we should all be deeply interested, because it helps us, improve our leadership skills and help us in the future success in science. Of course, when it comes to leadership, there is no better person to talk about it than Dr. Fadi Khasawneh. Dr. Khasawneh is associate professor and the current department head of the pharmaceutical science at Texas A&M Lerma Rangel College of Pharmacy. Dr. Khasawneh has also served as the founding chair of the Department of Pharmaceutical Science at the University of Texas at El Paso School of Pharmacy. He had also served as a faculty member in the Department of Pharmaceutical Science at the Western University of Health Science College of Pharmacy at Pomona, California. Of course, Dr. Fadi is also the current chair of the Division of Cardiovascular Pharmacology at the American Society of Pharmacology and Experimental Therapeutic Aspect. He also served on ASPECT's program of nominating committees. Dr. Khasawneh also served as the chair of biological science section of the American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy. He served as the secretary of faculty senate at the University of Texas at El Paso and the chair of academic senate at Western University of Health Science. He also is a reviewer on different organizations, including NIH Veteran Affairs, American Heart Association, among others. And he is also a reviewer for a host of scientific journals. And of course, Dr. Fadi Khasawneh is renowned and formidable scientist in the field of platelets biology and thrombosis. So he also mentored many scientists, students who found success in their career. So without any further ado, please join me to welcome Dr. Fadi Khasawneh to our seminar session today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, the Texas A&M Health Postdoctoral Association, for this opportunity to speak to you today. My head kept growing, Ahmed, as you're saying all these other things. But, I'll start by telling you, I honestly never imagined I'll be able to, I'll be where I am today when I was growing up in a small village in the north side of Jordan. I never expected to accomplish what I've accomplished or to learn what I've been able to learn at that time. And I guess what I would say is, really the sky is the limit as long as you believe in yourself and as long as you work hard on developing yourself, and also, being associated with individuals who are very interested in your development. I'm no expert in leadership and emotional intelligence. I did take some training about, pertaining to leadership and emotional intelligence. This is some background. I think Ahmed covered a lot of it, but this is kind of my education. I'm a pharmacist by training, and I'm also a pharmacologist. The training I took in leadership is known as the Academic Leadership Fellows Program. This is a training done by the American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy. And I had already been in academia for about 9 or 10 years when I took that training. And it was eye-opening because, as many of you know, I was a postdoc, not that long ago. And, you didn't learn these things and you didn't realize how important they are to your career. So one of my goals for this presentation, maybe to inspire you and maybe all of you or some of you to invest a little bit more time in developing themselves in terms of leadership and emotional intelligence. And I picked these two topics because they're very, very critical. I'm sure all of you are ambitious. You want to be an independent PI one of those days. But how do you distinguish yourself from this really huge population of postdoctoral fellows out there? I don't know the exact statistics, but as you know, a small percentage of postdocs eventually become faculty members. How do you increase your chances of becoming that person? So some of the skills we're going to talk about are really going to be first key steps in that direction. So what is the definition of leadership? And you'll see that in terms of both as a research area and as a practical skill, leadership encompasses the ability of individual, group, or an organization to lead, influence, or guide other individuals, teams, or entire organizations. When you think about it, some of it is very, very intuitive. But it's a very broad definition. And in academia, which I think is more relevant to us, it's defined as a process of social influence. I think there is some background noise. I don't know if there's this, I guess there's a classroom where people are attending. Maybe if that can be muted, maybe that might help a little bit with the echo. Or you would not be able to hear me. I think you should be able to hear me, even if you mute yourself. I don't know whether that's going to help. I do hear that echo too. So in academia, leadership is defined as a process of social influence in which one person, that leader, working with others, can accomplish a common task. So, a leader cannot accomplish a goal by himself or herself. You really need to work with a team, with a group of individuals that are enlisted. As a PI, as a researcher, I see members of my team on the screen. So, it's me being able to influence them to achieve and also have their support to achieve a common and ethical task. Underline ethical tasks, because if the goal is not ethical, then that's really not leadership. Leadership is a relational and ethical process of people together attempting to accomplish positive change. And again, of course, people might dispute that, the times of war, maybe it's a little bit different, but maybe for that country, they see it as a positive change. But it's a relational. It involves multiple individuals working together and attempting to lead to accomplish a positive change. It's important that leaders have that they lead people lead with character and also with their strengths and their values. you might hear that there's no guaranteed path to becoming a leader, but that is actually true. It's actually a process. It requires lifelong commitment to personal development so that you'll be prepared to confront the enormous complexities leaders face. It's not an easy thing to do, or it's not easy to be a leader. There are challenges every day. And it's important that you invest the time and the energy in developing yourself so they're really prepared to face and confront all of these complexities that a leader will face. There are going to be some pressure. You're going to have some maybe grant deadlines. You need to publish a paper before you submit a grant, and how do you work with all these individuals, with all your team members, to make sure that you achieve that goal? There are challenges, but at the end, if we get the paper published, if we get the grant funded, or you've hired the right person, or you will know, you'll be satisfied because you know that you made a positive difference or a positive change in the lives of others. If you guide somebody, if you mentor them towards writing their own fellowship, that's also an accomplishment. So it's important that leaders, that they lead with their character and with their strengths and values. And we all have strengths and weaknesses. I'll be talking about that in a little bit. Some of you may have seen this book, The Strengths Finder, Choose Your Strengths. And you can do some assessments, by the way. I'll talk about that in a little bit to better understand yourself. What are my strengths? And some leaders, by the way, they ask their team members to take that kind of the Strengths Finder assessment so that they can see what are their strengths, so that when they're putting together teams or working on this project or that project, they can really select the right team members. So this is the book that I just mentioned. The central aspect of it is, the strengths tell you how you can accomplish a goal. And character strengths are positive indicators of who you are, how you show up in this world. And this type of assessment, the Strengths Finder, measures strengths of competence. Am I competent? Am I well prepared to engage in this task? Am I well prepared to bring people together? Am I well prepared to, tackle a certain issue, in the department? Am I the best person to handle recruitment of members? Am I the best person to train somebody because I can really connect with individuals? So I would urge each and every one of you, and maybe the association can provide some support for it, to really run that analysis. These are my 5 strengths. This is part of the training that I got: achiever, arranger, competitor, competition relator, and learner. And honestly, it was kind of eye-opening for me. I knew I'm a competitor. I didn't realize it's going to be in my top 5. But I also, I like interacting with people, and I think I connect with them really well, and that's part of the relator part. As a scientist, hopefully we're all learners. We strive for knowledge, and we read papers and manuscripts and things like that. But also, what a lot of people don't know, I read these kinds of books all the time. Actually, I'm part of a book club that meets every month, and we discuss various topics. So I gave a presentation when I came for an interview here. I gave a presentation to the faculty at the time, and I'll share with you some of these slides that really help illustrate what leadership is about. How should we view our department? One of the things I talked to them, I said, I view it as a team. And as you can see, if you remember 2019, the United States women's soccer team won the World Cup championship. And each one of these team members plays a critical and a vital role. you know, and if you view the department as a team, the chances you're going to be successful are much higher. In a department, my success is independent of the others. And actually, we shouldn't view it like that. You know, the goalie plays an important role, the midfielder, you know, the forward, all of these. And remember the Avengers. Each one of them had certain strengths, and they all brought that together to defeat Thanos, right? That's his name, and save the world. But even as a PI, you know, I view everyone playing an important role in our projects, in our grant submissions, in our papers, you know, and I won't be successful without their success. And you don't want to be like this person where he says, I have no idea why I called this meeting, because he's not a true leader. So in terms of my general philosophy for leadership is the number one is shared governance. And what shared governance is really you being committed to collegial, cooperative, and trust-based leadership. Everybody plays an important role. In this case, I was talking to the faculty. Each one plays an important role. The participation is very meaningful. It's not just, yeah, tell me your opinion, and then I'm going to throw it in a drawer, and it's not going to be a part of my decision-making. No, that's not how it is. It is meaningful participation. It's taking these recommendations and working with all of them to come up with a final decision. And it's done in a very collegial, respectful way, cooperative, and it's also based on trust. Trust is a very important aspect of any relationship, especially in leadership. If people don't trust you, good luck accomplishing your goals. And you know, some of you might be familiar with this notion of collective wisdom. You know, one person, you know, we need to say we, not I. We together took that decision. So one person thinking through a problem is not going to be as good as a team working together towards addressing that problem. And it also helps in terms of taking ownership. At the end, people are going to buy in. I was part of that decision to pursue this project. I'm going to take ownership of it rather than, you know, this was just shoved down my throat. I was told to do this. There's no excitement. There's no enthusiasm for it. So, and then, but at the same time, as a leader, there may be situations where a decision needs to be made. You know, and a decision may not be popular, or maybe it needs to be done in an urgent manner. However, it's important that you share the rationale behind your decision. And, you know, and somebody needs to be held accountable for that decision. So, you know, and you have to be prepared as a leader to make that decision at the end. And, you know, Toy Story is one of my favorite movies, believe it or not. And, you know, as you're building a team in the future, you know, I'm very optimistic that a lot of you will become faculty, and you're going to be building a team. You know, don't be afraid of somebody else's strength. You know, oh, this person has a really strong personality. I don't want them on my team. No, you have to see someone else's strength as a complement to your weakness, not a threat to your position or authority. So keep that in mind at all the time. You know, actually what some people say is, you know, you work with your strength and you delegate your weakness. I'm not good at connecting with somebody, or, you know, okay, I'll have somebody else. If I'm not good at training, you know, new graduate students, I'll have somebody else who is really good at that, good with connecting and good in explaining. So, and there are some concepts you hear about a leader and a captain versus manager or a boss. So, you know, look, this is a boss sitting behind their desk and, you know, asking people to do some things. And on the other hand, a true leader, and in order to achieve the mission, a true leader, look, he's way there up front. working with these individuals. This is, I don't want to work for a boss. I really want to work for a leader. And I've been fortunate in general to be worked with people who really understand what leadership is. They lead, they coach, they innovate, they inspire enthusiasm, they develop you and they don't use you. They ask instead of commanding, and they earn respect, and you make sure they make sure that you will feel valued, and they give you credit at the end. They don't take credit by themselves, and they don't really work by generating fear like a boss. There's no micromanagement. They give you some independence, and their status quo is their enemy. So this is the kind of the difference. And some of you may remember this show, The Office, right? Look at this guy. He's so frustrated with the boss because he's not a leader, he's not an innovator, and he doesn't inspire enthusiasm. Some of the leadership strategies that I've shared with you that I've employed throughout my academic career. The first one is, get to know your team. As an individual, when I first joined, it may apply to some settings, may not apply to all of them. When I joined the department, there were 18 faculty members. I actually didn't know any of them, but I invested enough time. I met with each and every one of them to get and ask them questions. I listened to them and I got to know them. I got to know their goals and aspirations. Always lead by example. If there's a task that needs to be done, don't be the last one to do it. Some of the examples I'll tell you, we've had some requirements. We have an IPE activity for the first year pharmacy students, and the college needed some volunteers. I was actually the first to volunteer. Always be lead by example, and then communicate. Always have open lines of communication with your team members, and reward the good and learn from the bad. There's no blaming here. If somebody has done a fantastic job, and you reward them, you recognize them, and learn from the bad. There's no blame here. There is some accountability at the end, yes, but there's not, the goal here is to learn from that experience and not to just blame somebody for it. We want to learn so that we don't make that mistake again. And share leadership responsibility. We're all leaders in one way or another. And we have to, delegate to others, let them grow, let them develop. Be fair. You shouldn't have any favorite postdoc or a favorite research assistant where everybody is the same. Be transparent. Give them background about why some decisions were made, so that they can understand. And even though it's a tough decision, look, we had to let this person go, but there are reasons behind it. Or this is why I gave this project to this person, because they have the appropriate skills. It's not because they're my favorite. Yes, there is a potential for a high impact publication. And also be decisive. Once you've made a decision, stick with it. But of course, you have to think it through and make sure you've analyzed everything that has to do with the decision. Prepare what is background information, what are the outcome ramifications with it, and just be decisive. Enjoy what you're doing. That's really key. There are going to be ups and downs. Experiment is not going to work, or we didn't get the grant, we didn't get the funding, we couldn't hire this postdoc, we couldn't hire this faculty member. It's okay. Life is ups and downs. Enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy reading. Enjoy learning, and you'll be able to make a difference, and you'll be able to continue to work hard. Be accessible. Have an open door policy. You can ask some of our team members. They have my cell number. I get texts from them. Late at night, even after midnight. No Nobody sends us messages after midnight. But I try my best to be accessible to my faculty, to our research team at any time. I get texts sometimes from them. Hey, can I come and meet with you? I say, yeah, sure. Let's do this. It's important that this also helps build trust, and sometimes it helps you avoid catastrophes or other issues. You have to make sure that that you're available, and other individuals and your team members understand that, and encourage them. Some of them may be shy and hesitant. Encourage them. You'll reach out as well. And also, one thing I would remind you is, as you're, maybe you're mentoring some graduate students or some research assistants or undergraduates, it's important to be a person before you're a scientist or professional. Important to be a good human being. You have to respect others. There may be some failures. It's okay. Let's try again. Keep trying and trying until there's success. Respect others, be a role model in teaching, research, and service, and be open-minded. My way is not necessarily the only right way to do something. I've heard that term, it's my way or the highway. No. People don't like that. There might be multiple ways, and you have to listen. Maybe this experiment is better done this way. Maybe we need to go another approach. Maybe you used to use this inhibitor instead of the other one. And remember, if you give respect, you will get respect. Respect is earned. You have to earn it. So if you give it, you will get it. And be a servant leader. Folks, there are multiple types of leadership. Be a servant leader. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Be a listener constantly and reflect. I mean, don't be like this gentleman over here. It's like, yeah, he puts his head in the sand. I'm not listening to anybody. No, you can't be like that. Reflect too. What some of my team members may not know is I reflect almost every day on some of the things or decisions that I made. Why did I do this? Was this the right decision or not? It's important to reflect on decisions that we make. And it could be, by the way, some of these principles don't just apply to professional life, even personal life. Always seek input, and always ask for everybody's views. I want to get as many opinions as I can to maybe refine that decision that we're going to make, refine that step we're going to take. And always make sure you create a friendly working environment. And hopefully all of us are working in the friendly environment. But I taught a course when I was in El Paso to graduate students, and I talked about some things, and some of those, conversations were not friendly. Some postdocs were not necessarily happy in the environment they were in. And I said, or graduate students, just talk to your mentor about that. It's my job. Everything kind of starts at the top, if you will. If you're making sure that you create the best environment for your team, you expect them to contribute to it. And you shouldn't if somebody's having a bad day, not all the team members should have a bad day. And that's something I always talk about. If I'm having a bad day, I'm not going to take it on everybody else and make their life miserable. No, I need to make sure that I create that friendly environment, because that's where enthusiasm starts. That's where creativity. If people are happy, they're going to invest the time. They want to, help you be successful, because at the end, the success of the individual is really success of the team. Somebody scores a goal, it's not just their goal, it's the team goal at the end. And, I like soccer. I played soccer all my life, so that's why I like to use it as an example. Lead by action and by adjusting strategies. Be ready to change strategies and approach and goals. And also develop networks within and outside the institution. This is very important for you folks as postdocs. The next faculty position you might have, it could be working with somebody that you've met at a conference or a meeting. But also it could be, you need the critical experiment and you don't know what the technique is. It could be somebody you've met and they can guide you, provide you the protocol and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, and we've experienced in art, sometimes you email somebody and they just never respond. But, always take advantage of conferences and meetings and things like that. And, create, you're as strong as your network is wide. And again, not just within TAMHSC, also outside TAMHSC. So I talked about servant leadership and transformational leadership. Personally, and people, can see themselves fit more as servant leaders or transformational leaders. Again, there's this article actually that happens to be in a pharmaceutical sciences journal, or part of the American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy. Servant, you could be, you may have attributes from both areas. But personally, I see myself more as a servant leader. You focus on the individuals within your team and the goals, and then you assume that the goals will be accomplished. And like a transformational leader, which is focus on the goal of the organization. But some people see it, both models work. Although they're, as you can see, there are somewhat different. Focus on service to individuals within your team, to customers and the organization. And again, like I said, you assume that the goals are going to be accomplished. In servant leaders, you promote team problem solving, and you invest also individualized development. In terms of transformational leadership, you influence by modeling the kind of behavior. They see what you're doing and then they try to emulate what you're doing. Personally, like I said, I believe more in servant leadership, and you may have heard these terms. Some of the, there's actually a book about transformational leadership. I don't know if I have it here. It was written by somebody, Goodwin. She worked in the White House with one of the former presidents. So Abraham Lincoln was one of those transformational leaders, and some of the others as well, if you're interested in reading that book. So what are some areas of focus in leadership? And I kind of tried to put that, this kind of applies to anywhere in a team, whether as a PI or as a department head like myself. What leaders do, they spend a lot of time recruiting individuals, and make sure it's a group or team effort. You can ask members of our team. Whenever we invite a new research assistant or another postdoc for an interview, they all meet with him or her, and we ask them for their input. And you can ask them if you'd like. They'll tell you, what? There has not been a hire thus far that really the whole team agreed upon. Because your goal is to get the best talent that complements or strengthens existing expertise, or could be adding a new emerging dimension, in this case in pharmaceutical sciences. And we give good salaries, and for the department, we give competitive startups. Retaining these individuals is very critical. You support them in the quality of the lab where the work is really good. You're accommodating them and recognize them, and also provide them with leadership opportunities, or give them a chance to mentor others, mentor graduate students or train undergraduates. That's important for retaining them. If people are happy, they're most likely going to stay. If there's an opportunity to grow, they will stay. Developing, it's also all of these things, as you can see, recruiting, retaining, developing, recognize, they all feed into one another. And also retaining somebody, if you recognize them, you can retain them too. Developing through mentorship, workshops, internal and external. I appreciate what the Khasawneh Health Postdoctoral Association is doing. This is a development opportunity to help you grow and develop as a person. Recognize individuals, just say, hey, good job, fantastic job. Or, you give them a certificate, or just send an email, or maybe you give them, increase their salary as well. but it has to be explicit. You have to, they need to know that you appreciate them. That's very important. Oops, did I skip one? Yeah. So one thing I wanted to emphasize in terms of service and leadership, and maybe that will encourage some of you to volunteer for the organization or association, from a faculty perspective, serving on a committee, people will say, it's just service. And there's some kind of a negative connotation to it in the view of some. So this person, Kathy Davidson, in 2013, really started with initiative and had this commentary in the Chronicle of Higher Education, a lot of excellent articles in it, by the way, that, serving on a committee is not just service, it's actually leadership. And you're making a difference. You're part of a group, you're discussing something, you're contributing to a change. So don't think of serving on a committee or something as just service, and service is not necessarily a negative thing, even though, people have that associated, this negative connotation to it. But, we now, and that's what I'm trying to promote in my department, it's really more of a leadership and not just service. Well-being, it's important. That's part of emphasis. There's burnout. We try to be mindful of it. If I took a winter vacation, I asked my team, I say, hey, I'm not going to ask you to work through the winter break. Enjoy it. Well-being and mental health and resilience are very important. We all have hopes and dreams, and we want to support you, but you need to be taken care of, and you need to pay attention to all of that. Maybe some family situation that's out there. And in the past, people would say, yeah, don't talk to people about these things. No, nowadays, everything that's happening at home might have an impact with what you do in the workplace. So it's important to have these kinds of conversations. Happy faculty, happy staff, happy researchers, higher levels of satisfaction. The morale is high, they're engaged, and all of that reflects on productivity. Spending some time on it, these things is also important. And we take our team members to lunches and other activities, and even had games, and we gave awards and some of it. I think when you become a PI, please keep all of these kinds of things in time. So see what this guy is saying. As my assistant, your job will be to follow me around, humming the JAWS team every time I enter a room. Conflict and conflict resolution, folks, look, I mean, I don't know where you'd be living if there are no conflicts. There are conflicts sometimes in every day. And, in some of these references, you'll see conflict can be defined as a process that begins when one party perceives that another party has negatively affected or is about to negatively affect something that the first party cares about. That's conflict. Hey, are they going to take this from me or not? But there's conflict includes some type of perceived threat. And in the past, people were looking at conflict as something that's dysfunctional, it's negative, it's bad. We need to avoid it. And our job as leaders or our job as managers is to identify it and make sure that doesn't happen. But however, nowadays, a renewed view of it is as a healthy measure of organizational creativity. Maybe it's okay to have that conflict. And there's actual literature out there that says without any conflict, organizations would actually stagnate. Even in the lab, hey, I don't think this is a good idea. We shouldn't pursue it. Somebody else sees it's a good idea. Let's discuss it. Let's deliberate it. So it's really a normal part of organization lab. It's a normal part of any lab. And the absence of conflict could be as symptomatic employee apathy and withering organizational culture. You don't want that. You do want to have conflict. And honest disagreement is often a good sign of progress, folks. This is Mahatma Gandhi. I think some of you may have heard this saying before. We need to be honest and we need to be objective. And, you know, the best way to address conflict is let's work together, let's collaborate, maybe have somebody who can mediate. When we collaborate, that approach to resolving conflict, it's going to be a win-win situation. And that involves a problem-solving approach. Let's hear what everybody has to say. Let's look at the pros and cons. And in this case, you know, we're not talking about, oh, this is what X, Y, this is what Smith wants, and this is what John wants. No, it's not. Let's look at the views, the specifics, and this way we're not focusing on individuals. It's a view. Let's solve the problem. Let's work together on it. But sometimes you may have to involve the PI, but it's okay. You know, it's important that you also discuss that with your team members and encourage them to address it and be willing to come to you if there is a need. As you may, you know, this is somewhat of intuitive. Any task that needs to be done involves individuals who have certain capabilities. There are three areas. Number one is people having the right technical skills, people having the intellectual capability, and also people having the emotional capability. You know, maybe it could be accountancy skills. So technical skills, they know how to do Western plot, right? Intellectual capability, they understand the goal of the Western plot. They understand the goal of that manuscript. Intellectual capability is referred to the IQ or cognitive abilities. Emotional capability at the end is often referred to as emotional intelligence or EI, emotional intelligence, and EQ. These are also important, although the latter one, you may not realize that it actually is involved in everything that you do. And hopefully the next few slides will help you appreciate that. What is emotional intelligence? And, you know, I've read that book also as part of the leadership development. Actually, this is eye-opening for me. So emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, manage, and express one's emotions in healthy ways. It's not about being angry or just showing that I'm mad at somebody or, you know, yeah, this is why it didn't work, or no. That's not emotional. Emotional intelligence is me understanding and managing and expressing my emotions in healthy ways towards others. It includes having a healthy understanding of the emotions of others too. So that's something that people really forget about. And I think it'll become clear when I talk about self-awareness and social awareness, and then self-management and social management. So that's why, you know, it's really important that you understand the keys to emotional intelligence and emotional healing. So the World Economic Forum, I don't know if you've seen that or if you read about it, listed emotional intelligence as the top workplace skill in recent Future of Jobs report. So, and, you know, it wasn't surprising to me, and it wasn't surprising to a lot of other experts in that area. I mean, more recently, I think in the past, yes, I would have think it's just all about IQ. But you may realize that as you know, when you interviewed for some of the positions you've had, there were a lot of questions that have nothing to do with your technical skills or ability or your understanding of things. There were some questions about talking to others and conflict resolution and things like that. These are all emotional intelligence. So this is a well-known psychologist and an author, Deborah Roseman. If you don't manage your emotions will manage you. And that's a big problem, folks. And I know a lot of individuals whose emotions are managing them. They're not managing their emotions at all. So, and why is that important? Because when we feel good about ourselves and our possibilities, our emotions in that case really will be supportive of us. They make it energized and enthusiastic about where we're going and what we're doing. However, if you're sad about yourselves or what your future, and there's a prolonged experience of restrictive emotions like fear, anger, frustration, and more, this can drag us down We're not going to be moving up. We're not going to be accomplishing our goals. So that's why it's very important. I know, when I was a postdoc, there were a lot of ups and downs, but at the end, think positive, understand where others are coming from if there's a conflict, and use some of these skills to have a really candid conversation with them. And by the way, just like there's an assessment that you could do for the strengths finder that I showed you, there's also an assessment that you could do with emotional intelligence, and you will know how good you are in self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and social management. So the keys to a more joyful life lies in your ability to manage your emotions, folks. And that's not just in professional life, even at home. And that, which is this, where is emotional intelligence, emotional healing come in. Emotional intelligence has 4 clusters, actually, and each has its own competency, as I mentioned. Self and social, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and social management or relationship management, as you can see it. These are the competencies in each of these areas. Understanding what my limitations are, understanding who I am and how I react to others. What is my confidence level? How can I work on it? Is there room for improvement? And then understanding others. What are they dealing with? Are they having a bad day? Do I need to show empathy? I need to know what everybody is doing in my team. Self-management, meaning I need to make sure that I hold myself accountable. I need to make sure that I don't overreact to things. I need to make sure that I'm transparent in my decisions. Why did this happen? So relationship management is, I need to inspire people. I need to make sure I develop them. It's not just all about me or this person, this member of the team. It's all about including others, influencing and being a change catalyst, being that agent everybody looks up to and says, wow, he's our role model. And also understanding all these relationships within your team so that you can manage conflict and building bonds and teams and collaboration. So, and all of these areas, by the way, you can work on. Oops. So again, IQ is a test. I mean, you can take an IQ test, measures ability to solve problems, use logic and grasp, communicate complex ideas. EQ tests measure your ability to recognize emotion yourself and others, and to use that awareness to guide your decisions. And by the way, EQ is a much better indicator of success in the workplace. And a lot of companies now utilize some of their screening, some of the questions you're answering pertain to EQ. If you want to become a faculty member, believe me, you need to have high level of emotional intelligence when you go for the interview. You can identify leaders, good team players, and people who best work by themselves. And that is the end of it. The end of my presentation. I tried to leave some time for questions. I'm hoping that I didn't bore you with this presentation and you would see it as an eye-opening experience. And people debate, are we born with a certain EQ and that's it, it doesn't change? No, actually it does change with time. Maybe IQ and people can say, yeah, I mean, if I study this, if I study that, am I going to become better? Yeah. But typically, there's a lot of room to grow, and you can increase your EQ and increase your chance of becoming a leader or an effective team member by, reading and, investing some time in your development.
All right, that was a great presentation, Dr. Fadi. Thank you so much. It was really an eye-opening, and I really feel that I was relating to many of the concept that you mentioned in your presentation. So really thank you for this terrific presentation. And I would, if there's anyone in the audience have any question for Dr. Fadi, please go ahead and ask your question.
Hello.
Don't be shy, folks.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't really have a question, but I just want to say, the way Dr. Fadi divided boss versus leadership, was really a unique way. I've never seen someone saying it like this before, like using versus developing. It's a very, very unique way of thinking about boss versus leadership. It actually put a lot of meaning in those two different words.
Thank you, Duha. I really appreciate that. You know, and that's really important, folks, even as you're looking for a job, whether, you know, as a faculty and you're meeting with the department chair, even as a postdoc or recent graduate looking for a postdoc. I mean, these kinds of things are important. And, you know, you have to have the courage to ask questions. You know, don't be shy.
Are there any other questions from the audience? Please come forward. If you have any questions, I guess I'm going to ask you a question, Dr. Fadi. So I mean, my question is that what could be the biggest barrier for any person to get into a leadership mindset and be a leader? So what do you think? I mean, from your experience, what could be the most or the biggest barrier for somebody to transcend and become a leader?
You know, this is a really good question and a loaded one at the same time, Ahmed. You know, the way I see it, honestly, it's really about the opportunity and the fit. If you have a good level of emotional intelligence, you will understand where you're better fit. Another aspect of it is really being able to connect and relay and convey your ideas. You know, what a lot of people, I mean, I've been in a position where I've interviewed a lot of postdocs for faculty positions. And, you know, a lot of it is about some of the challenges I noticed is some of them unfortunately don't have emotional intelligence. That's skills that are well developed. You know, and that's an important aspect of leadership. You know, becoming a faculty, I know, you know, it's a dream for a lot of people. You know, unfortunately, sometimes the system, you know, recognizes funding and whether you have funding or not, publications and things like that. But, you know, again, a lot of people, as you might gather, you know, a lot of individuals are competing for this position, and ultimately only one or two are successful depending on that position. But I think it's really having a emotional intelligence and is very critical aspect of it.
That's a great answer, Dr. Fadi. Thank you so much. And is there any other questions from the audience you'd like to ask Dr. Fadi?
I think there is a comment from Duha. Yes, Duha is really, you know, showing courage and you know, and not being afraid to lead. And again, you know, if you thought through the decision, there's a collective wisdom in that decision, if you communicated it to your team members, then you know, the chances that you're going to be successful are really high. There's going to be buy-in, even if there's failure. It's not going to be a catastrophic failure because everybody was part of that decision. Everybody will understand. You're not going to be blamed for it.
That's excellent. If there is no questions, so we would like also again to thank Dr. Fadi for investing the time in the associations and providing this excellent presentation. I would also take this opportunity to encourage everyone, all the postdoc, to consider joining the association. We still have some vacancy for officer positions. So if you are interested, please reach out and we will be glad to have you on the association so we can serve the postdoc. I think, yeah, go ahead, Dr.
Ahmed,
Fadi.
if I may, I put in my email in the chat and I also
Thank you so much.
In case, again, if you know, maybe you're shy or don't want to ask questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll also put my phone number here. This is my direct line. I'll be more than happy to connect with you, guide you, advise, or provide any suggestions that we have, especially for those who are in the process, they're looking for faculty positions, or they want to consider that in the future. Again, this is my email and this is my phone number. Please feel free to reach out to me.
This is a big deal, guys. Take the advantage and, use the email. All right, if there is no more questions, I think we can end the meeting. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And please, we are looking forward for the next seminar. So we will keep you updated about that. Thank you so much.
Good luck, everybody. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.